right now. It's hard to find people that want to go. They have that drive to work.
What's going on, guys? It's Chris Work here at ProfitDig. We appreciate you joining us on the ProfitDig Construction Show. I'm here this evening with our Chief Technical Officer, Jeff Gibbons. And we have a special guest this evening. This is David Collins. He's a local instructor, HVAC instructor to be exact, at a local trade school here in town. David, appreciate you joining us this evening.
I appreciate the invitation.
Oh man, our pleasure.
Don't forget producer Jerry.
Oh, and producer Jerry's behind the camera as always. Yep. My fault, Jerry. My fault. We won't let that happen again.
Yeah. So, man, it's really good to have you here, David.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming in. So I'm curious to know, like, what is a certification to be a certified HVAC technician? What does that really entail? Like, because it's what, 2 years, 1.5 years?
The program is 1 year.
1 year
to actually
program.
go through and graduate with a diploma.
What does that look like in a year?
So it's basically just getting the bare necessities, just getting somebody to get out there and be able to use an electrical meter, hook up gauges to check refrigerants, just the little bit that they need to know just to get out there and get an entry-level job. Because there's a whole lot more, like once they get out, they got to continue their education, continue learning more and more. So we're just we're trying to get them in the door.
So this is HVAC 101.
Pretty much.
Right. Okay. Now, are there additional certifications you can get that are like intermediate, advanced, master level?
Yeah, you would have to, in order for us to go to that level, we'd have to have a lot more time. And the problem with HVAC is in a shop atmosphere, everything is so different when you go out that you kind of have to get out in the field and see all the different things.
There's no substitute for the real experience,
really
right?
Not on this particular thing. So we do a cooperative program with local HVAC companies. So when they get in their we do 3 semesters. When they get in their last semester, they'll start working 2 days a week with a local company.
Okay.
Of course, the idea is to get them with that company where they can co-op a couple days a week. And then they can, from there, just get hired right in full time.
Yeah, if it's a good fit.
If it's a good fit, correct.
Oh, fantastic.
What's the success rate on that? It's pretty high.
So far, for co-ops getting hired in straight, I'd say we're at 98%.
Wow. Yeah, and that 2%, probably someone made choice.
It is,
right?
Yeah. It's choices being made, and usually it's a employer calling saying, hey, I really don't want to do this, but we got a problem.
Yeah.
And I usually say, so when we do this, I usually tell them, hey, good for you, good for them. If they're a problem, send them back.
Yeah.
You do not have to we're signing a contract of what's allowed and not allowed for the student and for us, and for them, what the student's allowed to do. But at any time, that contract can be null and void if the employer decides, hey, this isn't going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come back to school and they don't get that opportunity again. Once they graduate, I'll help them find a job.
Okay.
But they're not going to get the opportunity to come, because that's not everybody gets to do it kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you get that opportunity, it's because you earned it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seize the moment.
Right.
Yeah. I did a co-op when I was in college for electrical engineering. I worked at Bridgestone Firestone.
Oh, I remember that.
For like a year, 3 months. What a great experience. Like,
awesome.
And it was basically required for us. Like I understand the HVAC field, probably there's a need for technicians, so maybe they don't have the luxury to pick and choose. But for us, like if you were an engineer coming out with a 4.0 grade point average with no work experience, put up against a guy that can show that he worked on a multi-million-dollar project for a company, but he was working 40 hours a week while he was in school, and he had a 2.9 GPA.
Right.
That 2.9, unless it's like a research-based role, like that 2.9 gets that job for that company almost every time over the person with no experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of one of the things we run into is, they take certifications in school. We do the refrigerant certifications. there's a whole list that I can go on that they do while they're in class. There's ones that they can get that are not required. But then the advisors, the employers, they want somebody that, hey, what can they do? You know, they got a stack of papers here and they're like, I don't really care about your papers. I want to see, put a meter in your hand. I want to see, can you show up on time?
Give me a demonstration.
Are you gonna be here?
Yeah.
You're going to call it sick every other day. You know, that's kind of what they're looking at. And they'll even come and talk to the class and say, and I joke with the students beforehand and I say, I can guarantee you if you ask them, what is their number one thing that they're looking for, they will say absolutely nothing about your training. They will say, I want you to show up and I want you to work hard.
Work hard.
This
And
is
be willing to
behavioral
learn.
patterns.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for because it's hard to find right now. It's hard to find people that want to go. They have that drive to work.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask about that, because we hear all the time. It's so hard from people who own companies. It's so hard to find good work. Like you hear that statement.
It is.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time in any industry. Yeah. Well, that's funny. One of your students who I obviously finished the program. First of all, I'm that guy that I don't do the annual service on my HVAC unit, and I know I'm supposed to, or even seasonal. I don't even know what the schedule is. That might be a topic we'll get into. But as long as it's running, I'm like, everything's good. But then every few years it goes down. So I'll call, and it's funny. I have a local company here I've always called, so I just use them, and they came out, and the guy who came out was a young guy who I used to encounter at just a local market that I would stop by on my way home from work. And
working the cash register?
Yeah, working the cash register. And it was that guy. I was like, hey, how's it going? I said, I didn't know you did this kind of work. He said, well, I just finished school and this and that. Now I got my full-time gig. And I said, well, congratulations. So he did the job, fixed my unit, air's back up, everything's great. And then before he left, he said, hey, man, look, I appreciate you being cool with me coming out and working on your unit. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I went to a customer the other day who also used to be a customer at the market I was working at while I was in school. And he was like, man, what do you want they send you here? He said, dude, you work at the market. And he's like, I was just working there while I was finishing school.
Don't judge me for my past.
Exactly. Well, I'm not judging anybody who has a job, period. So I just got a kick out of that. Yeah, I was like, dude, no, you were great. You fixed my unit. I'm back up. So
The funny thing about that is I don't know who you're talking about.
You do, you really?
I'm pretty
okay. All right.
I was gonna say there's a good chance.
Yeah. Well, he did a good job.
Pretty sure
I don't know if he was a great student, but he did a good job. So.
Yeah, if it's who I'm thinking of, he's pretty awesome.
Okay, good. Yeah. Awesome.
So what do you see like when you have your students? Do you kind of have a gauge of saying like, I need to, for this class or these particular individuals in the class, like we're for sure going to work on HVAC material, but is there a component of that training that is more behavioral patterns?
Yeah, so we call them trimesters because there's 3 of them in a year. Instead of semesters like a college, we go with trimesters because we're all year long school. So we get breaks in between. So each trimester has a worker ethics course. So basically it's broke down into our course codes are in numbers and each course has a grade and all that's averaged together. So instead of you got this teacher for this course and this teacher for that course, like at college, I'm teaching all the courses for an HVAC diploma.
Okay.
So within that, each trimester comes with a worker ethics course. So, and then that's what we cover. Are you going to be on time? Are you going to learn how to write a resume? How to talk to people, how to deal with a customer. All that stuff is covered.
Yeah.
There's a list, and I'd have to go look at the list.
Sure.
Yeah.
I forget the actual list.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them they just do online. Some of them I have programs for them to do their coursework online. And other times we'll actually get up front of the class and we'll talk about, well, how would you handle this situation? Well, if you're ever in this situation, this is what you need to do. Or if you've got a real mouthy guy, we have to have a work ethics conversation pretty often.
Like practical scenarios you might encounter.
And how to listen, it's a work ethics thing all the time, really, because the way it's set up is a guy can start, there's 3 different times a guy can start in the middle of a trimester. Well, then another guy can start a month later, and then another guy can start a month later.
Okay.
So what happens is you've got this guy working in this course and that guy working in that course, and this guy's at the end and this guy's at the beginning, and we're all in one room together.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very interesting.
Yeah.
So it's more like, it's not like I'm standing up in front of a class teaching all this stuff. I do that. We have those classes, but it's more like it's certain people out of the class at a time. So there's some over here doing that, some over here doing that. So I wind up being more of like a supervisor of saying, hey, this, I give them, this is what you got to accomplish. Here's your book, here's your logins for everything. This is what you got to accomplish today, and this is how much time you got to do it. That's more like I become like an overseer, I guess.
Yeah.
Until somebody comes along, they're like, hey, I'm struggling with this thing. Can you come help me? Then it becomes that one-on-one.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. Well, as far as, as an industry, I would imagine there's a ton of growth potential.
A ton.
And, if HVAC is like a lot of trades today, it's like, my goodness, there's a lot of empty seats. It's like we need people, to go into these industries.
An aging series of professionals out there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of the skill-based work industries.
All of it, yeah. It seems like
those
that.
guys are retiring. Got to get that young blood in there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, and I'm a huge proponent of trade schools and that path. It seems like we're always just driving 4-year school, and it's like that's not for everyone. And there's a lot of opportunity out there in just the trade industry. So
well, statistics are showing that somebody can go to a year. So they want to do a career in a year kind of thing. That's kind of what their goal is.
Catchy.
I like it.
I like it.
A lot of these guys they're coming out making as much after 1 year of trade school as they would out of 4 years with a bachelor's degree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no one told me that.
Yeah. No one told me that either.
It's a lot of work.
So, but even though, I have to tell the guys in my class, they're like, well, I've spent a whole year in school. And I'm like, well, comparatively, that's great.
You saved a bunch of money and you're in a good field where there's a lot of job opportunities.
Well, too, I think there's a lot of government initiatives to generate. So you might even get some or part or even all of your trade school paid for, right?
Pretty much everybody, except for very rare cases, is getting a full ride.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Man,
that's books. That's books and everything.
Wow.
Bill Lee did a.
Governor Bill Lee.
Yeah, he did a. Paying for the school. He did that, and it was for adults. He had, I can't think of what they're called. Tennessee Promise.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the guys coming out and girls coming out of high school, Tennessee Promise, it's a last dollar scholarship, so it pays for everything.
That's awesome.
So, but it doesn't pay for books. But then you've got all these other grants out there that even grants that just come up throughout the time they're there. There'll be these random, like Skills USA does a grant, and there's several others throughout. Like in ours particular, we have HVAC Excellence who are accredited by, they put out a grant. And it's $2,500 or $2,000, whatever. But it helps you buy tools or
Heck
things
yeah.
like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then you've got for old, there's our age is all over the place. So it just, we might have a 50-year-old guy, we might have a 18-year-old guy.
So it's never too late
Never
to get involved. 1 year, right?
1 year, yeah.
So if you're somebody who's out there not sure what you want to do, 1 year you could be doing this.
And there's a lot of, so we were 16 months, so it was 4 trimesters.
Okay.
And we kind of talked about, I have a board of advisors, so we talked about, okay, I like this curriculum better, but it's only a year long. What do we think about that? And they're kind of like, well, you're keeping these guys for 16 months. They can graduate at a year, but the option is 16 months. Of course, you got an 18-year-old. He's going to stay there 16 months, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem was my wait list was just getting longer and longer and longer. These last guys that came in, they've been on the wait list for a year.
Wow.
So that's a whole nother whole nother issue there. But when we decided to go to the 1 year route, we talked about it, and they're like, there's only so much you can do in this school, in this environment, because everything is a controlled environment. Like, it's totally different when you go out into the field and you see, everybody don't change their filters, which I'm guilty of too.
I have it on my calendar.
Mine's the first of every other third.
Well, I mean, I teach this, and I'm sitting in the living room, and I'm going, I guess I need to change my filter, because you start to hear, yes, I need to change my filter. I'm teaching these guys to not do that, but
Yeah, it's like the baseboard around the return. I'm like, that can't be good. Yeah.
right.
Awesome. Well, David, listen, we're gonna stop here and take a little break, and we'll be back shortly, and we got some other things to discuss.
Sounds good.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for joining us on the ProfitDig Construction Show. If you wouldn't mind, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment, let us know what you would like to talk about. If you're looking for a bidding and costing solution, check us out, ProfitDig.com. We'll see you next time.